Hello, everyone. See if people start jumping up into the comments. Let me know that here. I've got the comments on. There we go. Comments. There we go. So anyway, Jack, lovely to have you on again. And just wait for a few people to jump on if they want to jump on. So we interviewed you a few months ago, didn't I? Now, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. Yeah, it was a little while ago.
Yeah, and a lot's happened since then, hasn't it?
Yeah, a hell of a lot's happened then.
So what I want you, yeah, all sorts of campaigning and the BBC, but what I want you to do is to just start giving people an update on what you actually do and what your campaign is about. First of all, start off with how it happened, because it was over your daughter, wasn't it, to remind people?
Yeah, I mean, my daughter was taken off me on an interim care order, emergency interim care order, and I was put into a 26-week court adoption process. So I had to go through assessments, final statements, go to court, fight it, and prove the threshold document not to be correct, and I got my child back under Judge Lynn Roberts, you know.
Which is fair.
And then after that, I was put on a year's supervision order when I got my child back. And then obviously I've campaigned for justice and become a children's rights campaigner, protecting the rights of children in the UK. And exposing the system.
And you've been doing that for roughly 10 years now, isn't it? Something like that.
10 years. 10 years altogether, yeah.
You're doing it. So you've got an event coming. You've got a petition up, haven't you? Which is because it was abuse. You also talk about and campaign about abuse at Lower Lee School, don't you? Now that's a school in South Liverpool. So explain people about your experiences and this Lower Lee investigation.
Well, this Lower Lee is we're all part of. I'm part of the hashtag Forgotten Boys. I was put in Lower Lee School. I don't think on my paperwork that I met the criteria to be going to that problem school for problem children, and I was put in there, and I suffered all forms of abuse, and I was telling social workers, I was telling my parents, and nothing got done. It just fell upon deaf ears. So I campaigned, for a public inquiry for Forgotten Boys of Lower Lee and for accountability and justice,
So just tell us, no Lower Lee, because I know the name of Lower Lee. I know where it is because it's in South Liverpool, the same sort of area I'm in, but I'm some distance away from it. Now, when you first said this about Lower Lee, when we first started talking, I never had a clue about what went on there. But what was the standard? How did young boys get into Lower Lee? What was the criteria? Were they actually in care? Were they going home to the families, or was it just a mixture of the two?
In care with problems where they couldn't do mainstream school.
Yeah.
So obviously I was put in there, obviously because what I see as a housing crisis,
Yeah.
In terms of where should we put him, but putting me into Lower Lee at 6 years of age, as the youngest in the school, it was difficult. It was hard. It was hard to take as a child, screaming and crying all the time, wanting to go home at weekends, and you're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Because you're bruised up, etc. And when you do go home and you tell your parents, and your parents go to the school to shout at the headmaster and ask, why are you carrying on like this with my son? And then the headmaster would portray a totally different picture, which would make me, mum, really angry with me, saying that I made a show of her down the school, getting her down the school for nothing, lying. So she'd hit me in front of the headmaster and tell me, I've told the headmaster to give you a good hiding because that's what you need. So obviously I'm still banging on that window for my mum as she walks down the driveway and leaves me behind at the boarding school, crying for my mum because I know what's going to happen, you know. And it was just relentless.
See, the thing about those days, and I've always said it, is parents, you didn't, when you went home to your parents and you said, oh, the teachers told me off, or let's say a policeman told you off, or someone told you off, the chances were you get told off again because you were never believed. It was like, oh, they must be right, the teacher. It's a police, they must be right. And it's horrific, especially when, you know, I mean, what you're describing there is going beyond that. Most parents wouldn't respond the way your mama responded there, even back then. They'd be concerned about what if the child was getting distressed and alarmed like that. Because the difference between, because when children lie, you can tell usually that they're telling lies. So, what was the type of abuse you had to endure there and other boys had to endure?
All types of abuse. You know, I've been locked in classrooms because obviously I'm not being the way they want me to be. So the headmaster would come in and lock the classroom door and start throwing chairs at me. I'll get under the table to get out the way, cowering, and he tipped the table up, and you just screaming your head off, basically. Do you know? And you've got a teacher at the door watching this. Happens to be his wife, sits there watching it, and you think, you know, when you're older, you know, you think, really. At the time, you just think it's part of growing up. It's it's normal. It's really weird. It's later on in life when you start realizing what you've actually gone through.
Yeah, it's not until you, as I say, when you get to be an adult, you look back, and it can happen in so many ways. And the older you get, especially when you get to my age, when you're pushing your 60s, people that you had a grudge against as well, it can happen, that you didn't like and you felt wrong by. Suddenly you start thinking back, and you suddenly start getting a different understanding of it, thinking that that person was acting that way because of a problem they had. And it's so cathartic because then you can let your anger go. It's like, well, they were, you know, acting like that towards me or towards people because of problems they had. But also, as you're saying, bad situations that as a child, which you do, a child will adapt, children adapt to the surroundings, and they don't know that there's other experiences to have out there. They don't know, oh, wait a minute, there's people who are living other lives. That's why children can be abused, you know, by dirty, horrible people.
Well, I found it really hard. I found it really hard, and to open up to my parents because obviously I'd gone home and told them he was beating me. They was beating me in the school. Obviously, it's been made to look like I'm making a show of my mum getting her down to school for nothing. And then obviously, so now I can't tell her deep what's going on because she thinks I'm a liar. So I didn't think that I'd be believed. And when I'm telling social workers what was going on, you know, it still wasn't listened to properly.
They still do that now, though, Jack. They still, a lot of them don't.
It's shocking, and you know, because the amount of problems I acquired, you know, growing up into my adult life, I didn't stop childhood flinching until I was 24.
What was that, Jack? You stopped?
I didn't stop childhood flinching when I was 24.
What's that? Oh, flinching. I get you. Yeah.
You know, when someone walks past you or anything innocently, I'd flinch and jump like I was going to be struck. So I didn't stop doing that till I was 24. And I didn't stop sucking my thumb until I was about 21.
Yeah. Well, that's
the only comfort I had. But I got battered by my stepdad for sucking my thumb. You know, it was crazy. I wasn't a bedwetter. I was a thumb sucker.
Yeah. But
so
it was.
To speak.
Well, this I say, but back then it was a rate. But still, now you get problems. People think it's all, you know, different now. It isn't in a lot of ways. That's why, actually, I think it's gone, especially in home tuition and stuff like that. It's gone worse. It's very dangerous, and there's just not the checks there to ensure that that abuse isn't happening. But people were more or less back then. They just wouldn't listen to a child. I think it was a way of not dealing with it, or they thought just get on with it and toughen up. And that way, you know, you have to respect authority. They really did have the wrong way about it. Now, what happened? I'd just say a few shout outs. Are you John Little, Katarina, Mick? Now we're moving on to the situation where you left school. Now you left school, or you came out of Lower Leigh, and what was your life then? Because you had a bit of a trauma then, didn't you, once you left?
Yeah, I mean, all I wanted to do was to get out of an abusive home at the hands of my stepdad. I wanted to get out of the boarding school, so I was more or less a juvenile delinquent tank, running around committing petty offences, pinching cars, taking chase off police because I thought it was a laugh. And I found myself in Red Sands in Crewe, secure unit. And then I went to Young Offenders Institution, Weddington House, got sent to prison. And that was the first time in my life, at 15, I was able to relax. So I'd had all my childhood stolen away from me. And now I'm in an adult jail, full of load of Manchester lads as a child. So it was really frightening for me, because it wasn't the place I thought I was going. I thought I was going to be with all my mates because they was in jail, friends of mine. Because I was always around the older people, you know, when I was growing up, and levitated myself towards criminality. Because when I left Lower Leigh and I was up to criminality all the time, I was thinking, well, I'm going to prison anyway. What's the point in being good? Do you know what I mean? And then obviously when I went to prison and realised that I can relax, and I felt safe, I felt happy, and the only red flag when I got there was me sucking my thumb. Really, do you know what I mean? I had to keep that under wraps. It was the slop out days, so I know what it's like slopping out as a child, and to be around that and violent men and violent fights. I'd never seen a violent fight until I got into Hindley, you know. And when I saw it, it probably frightened the life out of me, because I shouldn't have really been in there. Where it'd been failed by social services and care homes and etc. You know, I left the care system and came to London. When I kind of got out of prison, when I come out of prison, I came to London. I don't know what I was chasing, and you know, it was just like London was the place. Growing up reading. So I came to London and I was getting involved with ecstasy, and I hit the raving scene, and I was at Wigan Pier. Then I started going into the Eclipse and to Coventry. Then I was at Manchester and the Hacienda. And then we started going into London. And then when I got to London, I thought, really like it here, you know. And then I ended up staying here because obviously, you know, family morals, you know, getting a girl pregnant so young, and I had to stay here. I was never able to return to Liverpool, you know, because I was just an unsettled kid. I wanted to go home, but I couldn't never go home, man. And then obviously couldn't hold my relationship down, because obviously I just couldn't trust anyone. You know, women weren't that really important to me. It was all about me going out enjoying myself. And then obviously I needed some sort of discipline and security, and I found scaffolding. So I've become a scaffolder, and that gave me a lot of discipline. It kept me out of crime. It kept me in work every day, and it made me learn respect. Slow down. You're 150 mile an hour, Scouse. Do you know what I mean? So I still thank them old school scaffolders today for keeping me on the straight and narrow, you know. And then obviously I've met my Mrs. Cheryl, been with her for 18 years altogether now, but I met her back in the day, and I realised that for once I'm always suffering. I'm going to put Cheryl first and my mate second, which I did that. I was already in full-time employment anyway, so I had a steady job. I just needed a bit of security around me and love around me. I didn't have it. I didn't grow up getting cuddled off my parents, so you know, I needed someone who was secure, who I could be open and honest with, and I could trust. But I had to battle my own demons. You know, the jealousy, the insecure. I mean, I acquired all this from boarding school. You know, I was getting insecure, jealous feelings when I was 7, 8, 9. You shouldn't be feeling like that at such a young age, but I did because of what I went through.
I think what it is, Jack, right? I wasn't. I still now, when you hug now naturally, don't you? Because when we met, you were hugging me and all this. And did you see how I was dead awkward? I didn't know quite how to do it. It was like I was trying to grab your hand, then holding all this, and it was all awkward. That's very much because I was brought up in a family where it was a family where there was a lot of love, but no one, and even when me extended family, nothing was hugging. I can never remember hugs or getting told, you know, I love you. And it wasn't that we needed to be told we were loved in this family and extended family, me cousins and all that. It was just the way things were. We just didn't do it. But now I still, you know, I find it awkward. It's not that I don't like someone hugging me. It's that I just find it awkward. It's just as I wasn't brought up to um, do it. So it's an unnatural thing. I'll always put my hand out first. But so it's you learn behaviour is half the time. But now what I want to go forward to, because we're getting on to now the scaffolding, I was going to say something about that. Yeah, let me just point out to people. Jack, you're a mastermind when it comes to altering things like caravans and making trailers, not trailers. What did you put at the back of a car?
Put my hands to good use.
Yeah, you know how to adapt stuff. Go on, tell people what you've been doing with that caravan.
Yeah, we bought a little caravan, obviously, in my children's rights campaign, so we do a lot of bushcraft, sleeping in tents with the kids because we do it as a family adventure when we fundraise, obviously, for Little Havens. So we got sick of sleeping in tents, being cold all the time, so we thought we'll get a caravan. So we got a caravan. We went out with the caravan to test it, and we couldn't get in no car parks. So we couldn't park anywhere. So I decided to take 1.5 feet off the top of the caravan so we can get under all the height restricted barriers in the car parks.
Now,
so
who the
it was
hell?
a project we did with my son.
Yeah, but who the hell out there would know how to take the top of a caravan up and lower it down? I mean, I wouldn't have a clue what to do. I'd just abandon the thing there that I can't use it. So you're very good with making things and adapting things, aren't you? You're extremely good at that. But now, this experience with Lower Lee and the experience with your daughter. Now, your daughter's situation, now it's very rare, and it is very rare that someone gets a child back once social services takes them. Just tell us why they initially took the child off you, took your little girl off you.
They took the child on future risk of harm. And because Cheryl had got mugged in the street, that's why they first initially got involved with us. We've been together 5 years, no domestic violence, no police incidents, no nuisance tenant complaints. We are a genuine nice couple, been together 5 years. So Cheryl was on her way to work, and she'd got mugged in the street. So she had to go to hospital, got the police involved. She went to hospital to make sure the baby was all right. Heard no more, carried on with our life. Then Cheryl was due to have the baby. Then social services came into our lives and said that you can't leave the hospital. There's a massive concern on you. We're going to take your child and put it up for adoption. And I said to them in the hospital, this was in a hospital where my missus had just delivered the baby, Misty, and Misty was in a plastic tub in the ward. There was loads of other mums with bare babies in their little plastic tubs in the ward. I think there was about 8 mothers and 8 kids. And the social worker come marching onto the ward, stamping feet, saying that I've got mental health problems, I've got anger problems, I've got a personality disorder, we've got concerns about you. But they'd done it to the point where one of the mums had got out of the bed and ran out off the ward, went and got a nurse to come back for their baby and wouldn't come back on the ward because I was on there. And this was purely because of what social workers did.
Now, just point out here, Jack, just point out to people, right? Because I've seen this happening to someone. When you're turning around saying, they said, you've got this, you've got that, you've got mental health, you've got a personality disorder. I remember that happening to someone that I knew. And you've got Munchausen's, you've got this, you've got that. There was no evidence whatsoever that the people, the social were accusing this person of what they had ever had any diagnosis of any mental health issues, any Munchausen syndrome, nothing. So they do throw this out, and it's so annoying because they shouldn't go around labeling. It shows actually bigotry on their part, real bigotry, when they're starting to label people as being mentally ill, that they haven't had a diagnosis.
They're not actually qualified to be labelling people, and they do it to children in the care system, man. And it sticks when it gets to the civil courts, and it's just not right. But I mean, they said I was a threat to national security. They said I'm a violent armed robber who served 8 years in Belmarsh prison for violent armed robbery. They said I've threatened to sit in bushes and shoot members of the public. And I had to prove everything was untruths, and with all my paperwork. I mean, every meeting I was having through that molestation process of long 26-week court adoption process for adoption, that is molestation process, because what the state actually did was they took my child off me in an emergency interim care order. So that is a form of compulsion set upon me by the state. And so they've set undescribable trauma. They've put me in undescribable trauma. You've taken a baby off the breast. You've done no impact statement for that separation, and straight away the system has put me into an assessment process to see if I'm a good parent. At the same time, labeling me, So I'm asking for all kinds of paperwork when we're going through the procedure, because I'm a kid of the care system. I know how it works. So obviously I'm collating all this evidence through this 26-week court adoption process, and the league and the professionals are giving me the paper I'm asking for, but they're mocking me doing it. And what you want the paperwork for, and all this carry on.
Oh, they don't like you asking for paperwork.
Well, now they've stopped doing it all because of what I've done. Now you have to go through your legal team for the paperwork. But when I was through the system, they was giving it out willy-nilly. So I was asking for it and getting it. So what they was actually doing was building my case for the end of the 26-week court process. So I had lots of evidence that they didn't know I had. And the police actually said, and the only people I've left me alone is the police. They came out, done their welfare checks, and they left. They wasn't about getting involved with social workers to take my kid.
They don't.
The only people that left me alone.
The only thing, let's just point one thing out, Jack. It's not that the police were like being super intelligent or anything. The police, and I've said this before, if there's any accusations or allegations of abuse or anything, you're best having the police the ones being called than the social services, because the police are based on the police are based on fact and evidence. They have to find the evidence because they're criminal based, and they have to get that. Social services aren't. And the amount of times that social services come to the police and say, we need this person arrested, we need this, that, and the other, and the police look at it and go, where's your evidence? Like you've just said about mental health and you domestic abuse and all this, and you've got a person has to do this, so they'll go, where's your evidence? And they go, I've seen it happening. Oh, wait. And they go, right, come back with the evidence and then we'll get involved. But until then, no. Because the police won't get involved with stuff like that. They'd want to see the evidence that you did what you did. Social services, which is a scandal, don't need the evidence. It's an assumption that they make.
Well, it is actually part of our rule of law in social care and civil litigation that future risk of harm is case of probabilities. So they are, in theory, looking into a crystal ball, and it's not right. And to see that the judiciary, the civil courts, are actually working with these councils who fail many children. So they're going into civil courts trying to take the model high ground, and then what the courts are doing are taking the kids off of the parents and putting them at immediate risk into the councils that are failing, riddled in debt, bankrupt in some cases. So how can the judiciary do that? at the same time have those future risk of harm laws.
Oh,
You
I
know,
know.
you're either practicing it or you're preventing it or you're playing with it. You know, which one is it?
They call it prevention, and the police go into that as well. Prevention police, and where they're trying to stop something happening. But the thing is, I'm sorry if any social workers are offended by this, and there are some very, very good social workers, but on the whole, they're not all that well trained. They're not all that well
I've met
trained.
a lot. I've met a lot that are good.
There's some very good ones. Now, what I want to move on to now, because I want to get Evan Fist into this. Now, you started your campaign, and you were called the Scouse Megaphone Man, weren't you? And
I was labelled by the local media as a children's rights campaigner.
Yeah, and that's how you started it. Now, you got your daughter back. This is what I want to point out. Jack got his daughter back, which was it's unusual. So the things that had been saying about him were true. He would never have got his child back because it's very, very difficult to get your child back once the social workers get their hands on them. But you started your campaign, and now I want to go fast forward, and there's been an issue with an MP you had where you appeared in court and were given you were pulled for harassment. Now, her name's Jackie Doyle-Price. Now, just to let people know, I did reach out to Jackie Doyle-Price and told her that we'd be mentioning this issue in this video, so that if she felt she wanted to make a statement, she could. If she felt she wanted to say nothing, she could say nothing. And also, I reassured her it wouldn't go into the realm of what's called harassment by agency. Now, what I mean by that, Jack, is you appearing on this platform. If I started letting you say things that were like causing distress or alarm, that's known as harassment, but that could be deemed harassment by agency, and I could be in trouble and you could be in trouble for it. So we have to stick to actually the facts as they're known. We can't go into, what ifs and so fast. But Jack, this was 2015, was it?
No, I was in the election of 2015.
2015, yeah. So it's quite a while ago. But tell us, because now this is going to shock a lot of Scousers, isn't it? Jackie is a Conservative MP. Oh, she was a Conservative MP, wasn't she? So she's a Conservative. Totally. And didn't you have a Tory rosette on at one point?
Sorry?
Didn't you wear the Tory rosette at one point?
Yeah, I was pulled in.
Jack, I'm going to say you have got to now kneel on a board, being a Scouser with nail stick up and flagellate yourself. My God, a Tory Scouser, they don't exist. But anyway, yeah, so just tell us how you met her, and she was very supportive of you at first, wasn't she?
Well, the thing was, Anne, I couldn't understand how I got through court. How did the social workers get the court date? Because the civil courts were telling the local authority, you can't have a court date because you don't meet threshold. Yeah. Now, there's no other way for the council to get a court date other than going to Parliament. Now, I've got emails of Jackie Doyle-Price's partner, and it firmly shows beyond reasonable doubts that they was both involved in the unlawful removing of my child. So we parked that there, right? I got my child back. I started campaigning, and then the MP pulled me in to stand in the 2015 election. So I thought, here we go, this is my shot for children's rights and try and do something.
Were you actually just something? Were you actually standing as a councillor or something?
Yeah, I was standing as a councillor.
Oh God, I didn't know that. I thought you were just campaigning.
Election.
Oh, well, that surprised me. I thought you were just campaigning on their behalf. I get you. Yeah, go on.
No, I was exposed to the Cabinet Top 10, Chris Grayling, James Brokenshire, walked around the street with him, took Chris Grayling around my local town, met Grant Shapps, William Hague. I met them all, and it was all good Me, Scouse Megaphone Man with the megaphone on the open top bus, campaigning, vote Jack and Jackie. That was the main part of the campaign, vote Jack and Jackie. And I was blown off my feet, the fact that I was around all these influential people that was actually running this country. And I was on the pretense that I was going to be helped to get it all sorted out, get closure, and then I can focus on getting somewhere in my life. You know, now I'm being pulled in by someone. I'm being around all these people. I thought I was, you know, actually doing something.
Yeah.
And then obviously after the election, a lot of the locals were really disgruntled because obviously they'd gone out and voted for me. They'd put stickers in the window, pictures in the window of me to vote for me. And a lot of people in my local area were saying it was rigged. It was all rigged because everyone was voting for you. You know, you're one of us. And then obviously after the election had finished, I had no contact with any of the Conservatives, including Jackie. And I found that strange. You know, I thought I got quite close to some of them, you know, and then after the election, after the count, I was just pushed to one side. And then obviously I'd seen Jackie in the street campaigning for an election. So I called her in the street and said, is trying to generate a meeting regarding Lower Lee, the Forgotten Boys, and from a child unlawfully being taken. And I was met with bad language in the street. So I said to the MP, I've just filmed and recorded what you've just said to me. And I was met with more bad language.
Well, we can actually say what was said. You were told to F, weren't you? And she used the F word, which is quite shocking. But also, it just so the people, because we'll talk about the court case in a minute, but we'll jump a little bit ahead of one thing. Because when you told me this when we met the other week, my jaw just dropped open. Just tell people what was her explanation for swearing at you when you got in the courtroom.
We got in by the time we got to court. She admitted to it on oath, which is breaking the principles of being a politician.
We'll go into that in a minute. What I want you to do is just tell us why she said it, why she swore. She
said that she thought it was language that I would understand.
Now that really got me, because I thought, you know what? If she'd said that to me, I swear down, she would have been put straight in her place, because that is so insulting. It's so arrogant. It's so placing you as some kind of little scumbag, you know, who that's the only language you can understand. Now that I found it, and if she's watching this, tough if she doesn't like what I'm saying. That just shows how she treats people. She looks at people and treats them. Oh, well, they'll only understand that.
The thing is, what shocked me the most, Dan, she was the suicide prevention minister at the time.
Oh God, Tories and suicide prevention, my God, two don't go together, do they? But anyway, now what happened leading up to the case was that. Now, I've read what it said in the newspaper report about what you were doing, because you got into a spat, didn't you, saying that Jackie wasn't helping you or she wasn't progressing the issue. So just quickly tell us about how you felt, what led up to the dispute you had.
I couldn't understand it, how she was swearing at me in the street. So I waited till campaign week and leaned on my rights, exercised my rights of freedom of speech on the megaphone, because I'm Megaphone Man, outside the campaign office. I didn't know that Jackie Doyle-Price wasn't at the office. I didn't know that. But the main gripe of it was, before I went on the megaphone, I said to the camera that I'm going to go rip someone a new one. Now, that terminology comes from the Oxford Secondary English Dictionary. If you just to criticise someone harshly, leaving them scald, which is the phrase, rip someone a new one. I didn't name anybody, you know. So obviously they'd phoned the police, and the police made their decision and said, like, he's more of a public nuisance, you know. If anything, he can be given a warning, you know. But the MP wasn't happy with that. And 8 o'clock that evening, you know, she phones up the commander and uses Joe Cox and mental health as a way of getting me arrested. the police had no other option but to come and speak to me. Because
But
the commander was phoned.
Was there any messages, email messages, any trying to get in to see it or anything like that before this? That she said she didn't want to speak to you?
I exhausted all avenues for this meeting and to sit down and talk with her.
No,
I actually entered the office. Sorry?
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's not an answer. That's do you mean you actually went in the office and you weren't welcome there?
Yeah, I went in the office and I put 2 steps in foot into the office and I asked her if we could have a chat. And she said she was busy holding a Hoover. So then another councillor come into my space and put his hands on me and said, "Can you leave?" Which I left.
Yeah.
And I went downstairs and I left. But they told the court that I stood outside screaming and shouting, and I didn't. And you can see that on the camera because I've got camera footage of it up.
Yeah, but why didn't they want you there? Was the things happening before that? There must have been something that made her think, I don't want to near me. What spurred her to have that thought?
Well, one of my followers on Facebook had said to me that all the councils cordoned off. So I went to the council to find out why it was cordoned off.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Boris Johnson was attending the council. I didn't know. So when I got to the council, I stood in the council reception. And then comes walking through is the MP Jackie Doyle-Price. So again, I tried to get that meeting and I was calling her. The councillor, one of the councillors said that I was charging across the council, shouting, and I wasn't. On the camera, you can clearly see I was walking and not running, like he said.
What I'm trying to get to, Jack, is, and what was it that made her not want you around? There must have been something that happened. She didn't wake up, did she, and say, "Oh, guess what? Just tell him to get away from me." There must have been something said, done, seen, read that she thought I feel uncomfortable around this person.
It's guilty conscience. It's guilty conscience, Sam, because the further we go on, it took for me to be arrested to find out that the MP Jackie Doyle-Price and her husband Mark Coxshall, or her partner Mark Coxshall, who now is the leader of the council, was firmly involved with social care, breaking data protection. They offered devolution to the local council to get the court date. They got the court date. The council was told by the court, "You can't have a court date to take this man's child." But because of this Mark Coxshall who was involved, I've got emails to prove it, backwards and forwards to social care, and before you know it, we're in court. Just the same process as the commander and abuse of power.
But what I'm saying, Jack, is that still isn't. There must have been something that speared her off and got it into court, because I've read the thing, the press release on it. Now, what that made it sound like, it wasn't just that you were shouting outside with the thing, you were pestering it. That was the thing, you were harassing it. You were sending emails and things like that. That's the impression I got.
No, I went to the office and had seen her in the council. She wasn't even at the office. So the only 2 times I'd seen her was in the street when she gave me bad language and at the council. I didn't go to her home. I went to an electoral office, campaign week. I'm a member of the electorate.
And why did you fall out with her?
In my eyes, I didn't. I couldn't understand why I was met with bad language. It was all right at the election, but after that, I was pushed to one side. And when I got arrested, that's when I realised they was involved in the removal of my child. So I come out of that court process. I appealed. I appealed. You've got an MP admitting on oath in a Crown Court to using bad language. I was prevented in that Crown Court from putting my hand on the Bible. My religious right was taken away, and the pandemic was used to prevent me from picking up the Bible. Yet my missus and everybody else involved in the court case picked up the Bible and gave oath in front of Lord Guy, Queen's Counsel. Out of all the juicy cases out there, he wants to come and sit in my case, you know? And it's shocking the fact that I can prove this beyond reasonable doubt. You know, my child would never have been taken if it wasn't for them pair. You know, what they did and the council breaking data protection.
So you got sentenced, and just let people know what the sentence was, what you were told.
I had compulsion set upon me, so I had a fine, community service, and I had my civil rights taken away from me. I couldn't go to speak to my MP. I was prevented from going to the council. And then obviously an allegation was made, oh, he's breaking his order. So again, the police had to come and speak to me again. Oh, well, I didn't break my order, you know, but again, compulsion was set upon me by the judiciary and my human rights was taken away. I was stopped from going on social media. I couldn't speak to a member of the MP and I could go to my council. And that was for quite a long time.
Yeah, that's what they'll do. They'll stop you.
So now I'm under no conditions, you know?
Yeah. Now, that all happened, that blew over, and, well, I say blew over, it's still a part of your life, though, isn't it? Because the BBC have recently interviewed you.
Well, the thing is, we've missed a big part of it out. Because the MP's husband, or the MP's partner, was coming round my home, harassing me. Now he's the leader of the council, Thurrock Council. He was coming right round my home to the point where I recorded him, went to the police, and the police went and had a word with him. And he was deemed a medium risk to stay away from me.
Well,
now, I didn't go round anybody's home, man. Do you know what I mean?
Was this when you'd been arrested? He was calling round, or before?
No, this was after a court case, after I'd finished me order set upon me by the courts.
And he's still married to her at this time.
He kept coming round my home.
He's still married to her at this time.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what remember I said to you, we have to be careful what we say because it can be seen as harassment by agency if it scans. What you've just described there is a classic example of harassment by agency, which she could have been pulled over. If someone, especially your husband, is coming round going to you when you're on conditions, right? No one connected to it can contact you or go near you because that actually breaches the order as well. And why they have that is because, say that I get you, say I don't like you and I get a harassment order against you and it gets slammed on you. I send someone round, say, right, get him to breach it. Then he'll be put inside. Get him to breach it. So I send someone round to needle you. But the law says that it's actually me that's doing it, even though another person's delivering the message. You should have got it for harassment by agency if he was doing that. Whether it would have been successful or not, I don't know. But
I went to the police and I got him 3 times on camera on 3 different occasions coming round. And then I had canvassers knocking on my door every 5 minutes. Then it went on to whether it's linked or, you know, I don't put myself an offer at. You know, I've got a Range Rover sitting outside my house with 4 Bailey blokes sitting outside. You know, I didn't go out and do anything or say anything or switch any curtains, you know, because I didn't want to rise to it.
It's definitely, it sounds like you should have pursued it. But again, you've got to get, when you're talking about councillors and you're talking about MPs who've said this again and again.
Well, the thing is, when it got to Crown Court, what the councillors did, they retracted their statements and said it was admitted that it was exaggerated truth. So why haven't these councillors been arrested for what they've done, perverting the course of justice? I don't get it.
Because they're protected by the system. That's how I was saying that. Do you remember we met up?
So it's not the country of rule of law, is it?
It never has been. Look, this thing that no one's above the law. Of course they are. I know that. I work for a police force. I know that if you're in the right position, got the right connections, and you can offer some protection or you can cause trouble. If you're not given that protection, I can assure you you're above the law, well above it. I've said this again and again and again. It's not that They talk absolute rubbish. And if you want protection, just become a councillor, become a MP, or get into a situation where you're a radio presenter or television presenter who's got some secrets they don't want getting out, and levy it. Well, if you don't do what I want you to do, if you don't keep shut up about that, I'll say what I know about your police force. That's how it works. It's like a huge, even though they're not Masons, they act like what people would think a classic Masonic setup would act like. They protect each other all the time. But now, this same situation, I say, you can talk about now, which is a good thing, and you're still campaigning as well. Now, the BBC, which I said before, actually have started interviewing you, haven't they? Twice they've interviewed you?
Yeah, they've just interviewed you last week as well, yeah.
And what was that concerning? Let people know.
This is concerning a public inquiry for the Forgotten Boys of Lower Lee Boarding School.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the BBC got onto me on the megaphone. They'd done a bit of filming. They put it out there on BBC Northwest, on the radios, online. And they've just done a follow-up filming session, recording session with us. So we've got like a little mini part 2 of it, you know, just to hold this council to account. You've got Liverpool City Council, you know, coming out and saying to me and the Forgotten Boys, we're sorry. I mean, sorry for what? Yeah. You know, it's just shocking, the fact that, you know, we've had to cope, you know, find ways of coping.
Yeah.
You know, my child would never have been taken off of me if it wasn't for Lower Lee Boarding School. Now, the social worker that took Misty was the same social worker from Lower Lee Boarding School who I was telling about the abuse. You know, it's just shocking, the whole lot of it. You know, so I feel as though I was targeted. Yeah.
Well, the thing with, I told you this when we met, didn't I? Know you were saying that the police have apologised as well, sure, haven't they? Police. Now, what I said to you straight away, I said, yeah, just take that and let it go right over your head, because I tell you now, they'll only say sorry when they're put in a corner and they think that's good enough. They'll talk to you, they'll take you in there, they'll talk to you, they'll be all, oh, yes, Jack. They'll get photographs taken with you, use that as propaganda to say, look, we cared about children, but at the same time, it's the same force which I fought for years to have an investigation into, and how they were covering up for disgusting, vile people with influence and power in this city, which is still going on. And they will not have that investigation. The Crown, the Chief Constable, I haven't been to this Chief Constable, but all the Chief Constables blocked it, the IOPC or IPCC that it was then blocked it. So if I'd been sitting there, they'd said sorry, I would have said, well, do you know that you can go and blow it out your southern end, because until I see you open an investigation into the niche situation where all these cases show that you are covering up, I couldn't care less if you say sorry or not, because there is still massive cover-ups going on now. And it's the same with the council. The council are fully involved with the cover-ups that are going in, because it's councillors that are involved in it. It's the local media that's involved in it. The Liverpool Echo know what's going on.
Well, the thing is, these people who were employed to run this school, like the deputy head of care, he had mental health problems, he had criminal convictions against his name. How on earth did he get that job? You know, there was just no checks being carried out on any of the kids. You know, it just felt like it just looks like just dumping off ground for kids. You know, and you just let undesirables run the place.
Well, it's a messy, disgusting system, and it's also try not to get dragged into it by tempted. Like, no, I said that they'll use you for PR. It's like a picture. I've seen it all happening. I've seen it happening all the time. And one that always reminds me, and people always seem to go, oh my God, because they think she's a goddess. Sammy Woodhouse, you know, who's the survivor of the grooming gangs. She was one of the first ones to speak out. Well, I remember
it's the same reporter doing the Forgotten Boys who done the Rotherham girls.
Yeah. Well, I remember her. She knew about what was going on, or I told her what was going on in Merseyside and this, that, and the other. And I had a very important court case where we're trying to get it out. So I said, can you just write a paragraph saying how important it is that things like this information is released to see whether children are being abused or not, and it's being cooked up by the police. She never did it. Anyway, so things went on, and we sort of got into a very quick short spat because she was on Facebook going on that she was on Newsnight, and she was like, "Oh, do you like my dress? Like my dress?" And all this, said this, and I said, "Do you know?" I said, "Sammy," I said, "it's a serious issue you're talking about." And said, "You're going on about your pretty dress." I said, "If you want fame, get yourself a talent, become a singer, or get a dancing dog." And I said, "Go on Britain's Got Talent." So she blocked me like that. And the next thing I saw her, she's in with the Home Secretary, and she's in Parliament, and they're all standing up doing this. The very same people are applauding her and getting the photos taken with her and videos taken with her, and the same people to this day are still covering up. To this day, she sold out, in other words, for her own fame or glory or whatever it is. And that's what you've got to be careful of. People get used, and I've seen it happening so many times. I won't name them. There was a Manchester group. Young man used to go around, similar to what you did, with a megaphone, and going on the megaphone. And he went down to Parliament, and suddenly it was, the police are saying grace on you. Cut a long story short, I thought, wait a minute, I'm not buying this. There was something about it I wasn't buying. So I called him out and said, "This." I said, "You're not in Parliament, are you?" And he suddenly went quiet. Anyway, he got in with the politicians. He got in with GMP, right? His little, I won't name them, got in with them. You could tell he was smacked off his face. He was soonied out on drugs. So that's where the money was going. He was getting to do all this. And I was looking, with the ashen, and you can see it like that, the drugs. I thought, that's where this money's going. He's off his face. And it was all helping the police. It was all total and utter joke. He'd sold out. I always say a campaigner can go and talk to the police, can go and talk to Parliament or whatever, but the state, I am not condoning you, and I am not going to let you use me as PR to say that you are working hard to resolve these issues until I actually see evidence that you are. That's what I'd say. And the first thing I'd say is, right, open niche. Come on, open niche, or you ain't getting no votes from anybody. That's what I'd say. But that's how you have to go about it, because it's a dirty world. So many campaigners do eventually start thinking, "Oh, can I get money in my pocket?" And it's so nasty when they do that, because anyone goes to them and says, "Oh, well, I need help." And it's pointing the finger at the people they're getting money from. Don't want to know. They don't.
Money's an amazing servant, but a bad master.
Definitely 100%. I'll just read some of the finger. It's a nope. Oh yeah, no apology, can't you go?
Breaking up a little.
Yeah, so, but now you've got, if people look in the description, right, you will see that I put a link to Jack's, what's it, change.com, is it, where you want an investigation into Lower Lee?
Yeah, a public inquiry.
Yeah, public inquiry, that's it, into what happened there. Now, what I want to ask you now, the council have said sorry to you. The police have said sorry to you. Right, that's what I'd treat that as until I see solid evidence. What are you going to do now? Where are you going from here?
We're speaking to the legal team. Still in contact with the boys. We're going to carry on campaigning and pushing to get as many people to sign this petition to get this public inquiry. And in the meantime, we're going to carry on campaigning for justice for the unlawful taking of my child, which is actually a crime against humanity. We keep pushing to try and revolutionise social care.
Now, I know this was going to say your campaign isn't just about that issue. You go much, much further with it, don't you? It's more or less children's rights in a whole perspective. So don't go thinking that Jack is just about Lower Lee School and just about what happened with his child. It goes much further than that, doesn't it? It's much broader in range what you actually focus on and try to get. Now, I often say to people, right, little bits of advice that they can take or not. Now, I've been watching you on Facebook, you know, your lives and stuff when you're in the car. Now, you've seriously been affected by it, haven't you? You can tell that at times because your emotions get the best of you and you start really, you can tell you're in trauma mode sometimes on your videos. You can tell it's all coming out.
I mean, that's the children's rights. Children's rights covers a lot of areas.
Yeah.
So obviously, I suffer from complex PTSD
exactly.
and phonophobia. So I have to control my emotions a lot. I get emotional, you know. But it's just tackling mental health and showing people on Facebook Lives that you can do it as well, you know, by being in touch with your genetics, giving your genetics therapy, the right therapy to get the best for you, exercising your brain different, eating well and healthy. You know, because if you don't do it for yourself, you know, look at the NHS. I mean, look at the voluntary services. They're not equipped to deal with us.
Yeah.
You know?
But now, this is what I want to say, because I think I'm pretty sure I said this year.
Sorry?
I don't know. There's someone in the chat, and I don't know what way to take them. Just wait a minute.
Can't hear you properly, Anne.
It's all right. I'm just looking at the chat. There's someone that I don't know where they're coming from, and I don't know to block them or not. No, I think they're okay. It's just, it's when you read something, it's difficult. I've always said this. When something's typed, you hear the voice in your head, and you can hear it completely different from what the person that typing it actually means. It's just they're wording it in a way that you're not used to. But it's a conversation going on there, and I just sort of check it. But anyway, what I wanted to say is that when I watch it, you know, you do go into you because you've got PTSD. I can tell that because you do. You can see it comes in a rush with you, doesn't it? And it's like all this pent up emotion is coming out, which you can't control. What I'd say to you is make sure when you control it, but you can't control what you're saying at that moment, really. That's the fact about it, because it just blurts out. I've seen it happen before to people. But what you need to, I'd say, focus on is that with your campaign, don't let it go too broad. Don't try to save the world, and that keep it concise. Because one thing, this is telly off time. This is where I start. I do this to people. I tell them off and I give them advice. I asked you, didn't I, to do a little video about your change for the investigating or the inquiry into Lower Lee. Now, have you done the little video?
I totally forgot all about it, to be honest with you.
Not an excuse, and that's what I'm going to point out. Right?
I'll do it for you tonight immediately.
I'll tell you now what you've got to do. This is what you do. You single in, and you are good at what you do. But what I say is, unless someone's, because what you've got to remember, I was brought up in an industry where everything was image, everything was publicity, everything was production. I've always said, in the theatre, entertainment industry, 90% of the time, it's just production work. The rest, 10% at the end, that's actually the performance. That's how small the performance is. Everything is levied at. Because they've got to get money out of people. And so they've got to make sure that everything's right. So what you've got to do is you have your time when you go out on your megaphone, you have this, that, and the other. That should only take up a fraction of your time. The rest should be built on, building up, working out, do we go here? Produce some material, and you don't need money for it with today's technology. You can do it on computers, little videos. Send these videos to the right organizations, the right people, trying to get funding. This is another essential thing that for some reason campaigners don't put enough effort into, getting funding. you need your petrol, you need your food when you're on the road, and you're not there, even though you're doing out of your heart, you need to say, no, come on. You need to get that funding in there so that you're not going broke yourself doing it. And you get that also allows you to get, say, you need a new computer. Say you want to go into schools or you want to go into the council and you want to give let's say, a speech. You'll want a projector. You'll want a projector screen. Put out that you need that and see if people actually fund you for it. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of it, and I can see that's what you need to focus on. That's just suggest that. I mean, you take my advice or not, but I'd say focus on actually getting as a package that it's something that you can literally, even though you're not selling it as such, you are.
Well, I have been trying to get into the schools, part of Lord Harris Academies, because I'm actually part of Team Chappers, which is the veteran police dog in Essex.
Oh, Chappers, I know Chappers, yeah.
Yeah, so I was due to go into one of Lord Harris Academy primary schools with the police dog Blue and the owner Chappers, to tell the kids and talk to the kids, but because of the pandemic, it didn't happen. But as we speak, obviously, it's being risk assessed at the minute. So, yeah, we're just sitting tight and waiting to get into the schools.
Well, this what you want to do, Jack. Excuse me. Start getting it all planned out. All this is what we're going to do. And find out what they want as well. And I always say this to people: if you've got a target audience that you want to reach out to, do you know what? There's nothing better than actually saying to them, phoning them up or contact email and say, look, I just want to make sure that I can deliver to you what you want and what you need. What would you like me to talk about? What would you like me to do? What format would you like it in? Do you know when you do that, especially to schools, to universities, to councils, they love it because what you're doing is you're saying to them, in effect, without saying it as such, I want to give you the best possible service and I want to give you the best possible outcome that I can. So that what you're actually delivering is what they want, or they want to see that, and they want to discuss those issues. So always go to your target. So it's called market research, really. That's what it is, market research.
You're breaking up lots and
lots. I think it's because I keep on going away from the mic. Is that any better?
Sorry?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing literally market research, Jack. You're going out and you find out what they want. I'll help you with that if you want. I'll give you little what you call little guidelines and tell you.
I can't hear a word you're saying. I can't hear anything.
Can anyone in the chat hear me? Or is it just Jack? I've got a feeling it's Jack that can't hear me. Can anyone say in the chat whether he can hear me or not clearly? And they all go silent. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, it's just in the chat. I'm getting it's gone dead since I asked that question. So I don't know whether it's my side that it's going off on or it's Katrina's saying can hear you. Carol's saying can hear you. Tegon's saying can hear you. I think it's on your side when it's breaking up. Jack, I'm blaming you. It's your fault. It's not me. It's not me that's breaking up. So you can still hear me now.
Yeah, I can just about make it out, yeah.
Yeah, it's on your side because everyone else can hear me. But anyway, what I'll do, I'll start winding it up now. But I'll get in touch with you afterwards and we'll talk about this, how you can actually package what you want to do and get into the right places, instead of just going out with a megaphone, which works.
Yeah,
it's good. Yeah, because you need to get that there, but we'll talk about that. But anyway, it's the Chinese New Year, isn't it? Chinese, you're thinking, where's this going? Right?
The year of the cat.
Rabbit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you now, yeah.
Yeah, rabbit. It's the year of the rabbit, not the year of the cat.
Oh.
Now, what I want you to do is make a wish for this year, right? Make a wish. Oh, don't tell me what it's called in your head. It's got to be something positive. It's got to be a positive thing. And when you've got it in your head what you're wishing for, and you can't tell me or tell anyone else, put up your right hand when you've got your wish in your head. Right. Here we go. There we are. Now that's a Chinese New Year wish candle. And it's all been special incenses are on there to send all good luck. So whatever you're thinking of, it will come to you next year. And I'm going to leave that there to burn out because it can't be put out. So there's your wish candle. I'm doing a wish candle for everyone that comes on between now and the 5th of February when the Chinese New Year actually ends. So anyway, Jack, it's been really interesting talking to you. We'll meet up again. Definitely we'll meet up again because that was interesting. And I'll be in contact with you. I'll get in contact with you on Facebook so we can talk about how you actually start getting your own little package together. You're in control.
I'm in July, I'm paddling live on Facebook from Liverpool to London for Little Havens along the British canals.
Well, this is it. That's what we've got. That's what we've got to get a little video done about. So we're going to get a little video sorted out, and you're going to advertise it. It's going to be sent to people, and you see the difference when you do that. Just how you start getting more people towards you. So I'll just say goodbye to people in the chat. Carol,
Thank
John,
you so much.
Katerina, Mick, Hariel. I think that's pronounced. Sorry if I've got that wrong. JK. So anyway, take care, Jack, and I'll be in contact with you tomorrow on Facebook. Bye-bye now.